The classroom was quiet except for the soft hum of holographic displays. 47 different species sat in rows, watching their instructor pace at the front. The Galactic Academy station Perseus floated in deep space, far from any sun. It was the year 2847, and students from across the galaxy came here to learn about war. Instructor Velthar stood before them. He was Crithian, a species that looked like walking crystals with too many arms. He had fought in wars for 300 years. His voice crackled like breaking ice when he spoke. "Today we study the Tarvanian Wars," he said. The hologram showed 2 fleets meeting in space. Notice the numbers. The attacking force had 8,000 ships. The defenders had 3,000. Who won? A student with green scales raised a claw. The attackers, instructor. Correct. Why? More ships means more firepower. More firepower means victory. Velthar's crystal body glowed with approval. This is the fundamental law of warfare. Superior numbers win battles. This has been true for 10,000 years across the galaxy. More warriors, more weapons, more ships. These things decide who lives and who dies. Hana Kim sat near the back, staring at her datapad. She was human. One of only 5 humans at the academy. Her black hair was tied back, and she wore the standard gray uniform that all students wore. She had been at the academy for 2 years, studying tactical combat. Most days she listened and took notes. Today felt different. The lesson continued. Velthar showed battle after battle. Every time the side with more soldiers won. It was simple math. The alien students nodded. This made sense to them. Their species had fought wars this way for thousands of years. Now, Velthar said, we briefly touch on recent conflicts. The human coalition's skirmishes in the Outer Rim were minor territorial disputes. The council mediated and peace was restored. Nothing significant occurred. Hana's head snapped up. She looked at her datapad again, scrolling through data. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. Mireille Choi, another human student, sat 3 rows ahead. She was older, in her 4th year, studying combat engineering. Mireille glanced back at Hana with a warning look. Don't make trouble, her eyes said, but Hana raised her hand. The classroom fell silent. All eyes turned to her. Some students had never heard a human speak in class. Humans were quiet, polite, and kept to themselves. They didn't ask questions. Velthar's thermal patterns shifted colors. Yes, Student Kim? Hana stood up slowly. Her voice was clear and calm. Instructor, I'm looking at the public records for the Kepler Station incident. The report says Earth forces were outnumbered 40-1. But humans won that battle. They won decisively. How is that possible if numbers determine victory? The room got colder. Students shifted in their seats. A few whispered to each other in languages Hana didn't understand. Velthar was silent for a long moment. His crystalline body stopped glowing. The Kepler incident was an anomaly. An anomaly? Hana looked down at her datapad. The records show similar results at Titan Moon, Proxima Colony, and the Outer Rim defense line. In every case, humans were heavily outnumbered. In every case, humans won. A large student in the front row laughed. He was Vrillax, a species bred for war. His name was Kronath, and he was the son of an ambassador. Humans are small and weak. Your records must be wrong. Hana ignored him. She kept her eyes on the instructor. I'm asking a simple question, instructor. What's the combat ratio for a single Earth Marine? How many enemy soldiers can one Marine defeat? Velthar's body flickered. When he spoke, his voice was very quiet. Humans fight differently than other species. How differently? That is not part of today's curriculum. But it should be, Hana said. She wasn't being rude. She was genuinely confused. If we're learning about combat ratios and tactical theory, shouldn't we study all the available data? The human conflicts have documentation. Why aren't we examining them? At the back of the room, someone cleared their throat. Daewon Park sat in the observer's section. He was human, older than most soldiers, with gray hair and scars on his face. He was officially listed as a military attaché, someone who watched and reported. But everyone knew he was more than that. Daewon had been watching Hana. Now he was watching Velthar. The instructor's body turned toward the human observer. Something passed between them. Not words, but understanding. Velthar turned back to the class. The human way of war is complicated, he said carefully. Their tactical doctrine doesn't follow standard models. The council has deemed it unnecessary for general study. Unnecessary? Hana said. Or classified? The room went completely silent. Mirai put her face in her hands. Belthar's body went dark, which meant he was thinking hard. Finally, he spoke. Class dismissed early today. Student Kim, remain behind. Student Choi, you as well. The other students filed out quickly. They whispered and stared at Hana. Kronath shouldered past her roughly. Stupid human, he muttered. Making problems. When the room emptied, only 4 beings remained. Velthar at the front, Hana and Mirai standing together, and Daiwan, who walked down from the observer section. That was foolish, Mirai said to Hana. You know the Academy doesn't like questions about human combat. I was just asking. You were asking dangerous questions, Velthar interrupted. His voice was different now, less formal. Questions that make the council uncomfortable. Daiwan reached them. He looked at Hana with an expression she couldn't read. You really don't know, do you? Know what? Why the galaxy doesn't talk about how humans fight. Hana shook her head. I've read the public records. They're incomplete. Major sections are redacted. Battle reports end suddenly. Numbers don't match up. I thought maybe there were errors in the data. Daiwan and Velthar exchanged looks. There are no errors, Velthar said softly. The information is suppressed deliberately. By order of the Galactic Council, but why? Daiwan pulled out his own datapad. He typed something, then showed it to Velthar. The instructor's body flickered through several colors. Surprise, concern, and finally resignation. You're cleared for this? Velthar asked. As of this morning. Earth Command anticipated questions would eventually arise. They've authorized limited disclosure to Academy students with appropriate clearance. He looked at Hana and Mirai. Both of you are flagged in the system. Apparently, Command knew you'd start asking eventually. Asking what? Hana said, frustrated now. Daiwan's scarred face was serious. You asked about combat ratios. You want to know what one Earth Marine can do, he paused. Come to my office in 1 hour. Both of you. I'll show you the classified files. Is that allowed? Mirai asked. It is now. The Council has been keeping secrets for 50 years. Earth Command has decided it's time some people learned the truth. He looked at Hana. You asked a simple question. The answer isn't simple. It's going to change how you see everything. Velthar spoke up. I've fought in 43 major conflicts across the galaxy. I've seen species that breathe fire and species that move through solid rock. I've watched battles that lasted years. His crystalline body glowed dimly, but I've never seen anything like what humans do in combat. It defies logic. It breaks every rule. Hana felt a chill run down her spine. Is it that bad? Bad? Daiwan shook his head. No, it's effective. Terrifyingly effective. That's why the Council keeps it quiet. Because if the galaxy truly understood what human soldiers can do, everything would change. He walked toward the door, then stopped. 1 hour, my office. Don't be late. And don't tell anyone else about this conversation. After he left, Mirai turned to Hana. You couldn't just stay quiet, could you? I had to know. Be careful what you wish for, Velthar said. His voice was sad. Some knowledge carries weight. Once you understand what your species truly is, you cannot unknow it. Hana looked at her datapad one more time. The Kepler Station incident. 47 human Marines against over 1,900 enemy soldiers. The battle lasted 4 hours. Almost all the enemy soldiers died. Only 12 humans were injured and all of them survived. Those numbers made no sense. Not by any math the galaxy understood. I need to know, she said quietly. Then you will, Velthar said. But remember that I warned you. Some truths are harder to carry than weapons. The instructor left and Hana stood alone with Mirai in the empty classroom. Outside the windows, stars burned in the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, Earth floated. Home. A planet that seemed so ordinary, so peaceful. But Hana was beginning to understand that appearances could lie. She had 1 hour before the truth. Daiwan's office was small and plain. Gray walls, a metal desk, 2 chairs. One window looked out at the stars. The only decoration was a faded photograph of soldiers standing together, smiling. All of them were human. All of them looked young. Hana and Mirai arrived exactly on time. Daiwan was waiting, sitting behind his desk. His face showed years of hard living. Scars ran across his left cheek. His hands were rough and calloused. Sit, he said. They sat. Hana's heart beat faster. Mirai looked nervous. Daiwan pulled out a data chip and inserted it into his terminal. The screen came alive with files. Hundreds of them. All marked with red security tags, classified, restricted, eyes only. Earth Command declassified these files 3 months ago, Daewon said, but only for Academy use, only for students who asked the right questions. He looked at Hana. You asked the right question. What's in the files? Hana asked. The truth about how humans fight wars. He tapped the screen. You asked about combat ratios. You want numbers? I'll give you numbers. The first file opened. Video footage appeared. Dark, grainy, clearly from a helmet camera. The timestamp showed it was 12 years old. Kepler Station, Daewon said. You mentioned this in class. 47 Marines stationed at a remote outpost. The Vrax Collective decided they wanted that station. They sent 1,900 shock troops to take it. The video showed alien soldiers advancing. They were large, armored, and moved with discipline. They filled corridors, covered angles, used proper military tactics. The Vrax are professional soldiers, Daewon continued. They've been fighting wars for 5,000 years. They train from birth. They're stronger than humans, faster than humans, and they have better armor. Hana watched the screen. The Vrax troops moved into the station. Doors sealed behind them. Then the lights went out. What happened next made Hana lean forward. The darkness filled with movement. The helmet camera showed flashes of combat, quick, brutal, efficient. Marines appeared from nowhere. They struck fast, then disappeared. The Vrax troops fired wildly, hitting their own soldiers. Screams echoed through the corridors. 4 hours and 17 minutes, Daewon said quietly. 1,843 Vrax casualties. 12 Marines injured. 0 Marines killed, Mireille spoke up. How is that possible? Because Marines don't fight fair. Daewon switched to another file. Titan Moon, next example. This video was clearer. It showed a battlefield, rocky terrain, no cover. A Confederation peacekeeping battalion was dug into defensive positions. 400 soldiers with heavy weapons, artillery support, and air cover. 1 Marine squad, Daewon said. 8 Marines. Their mission was to remove the Confederation forces who were occupying civilian territory illegally. 8 against 400? Hana said. Watch, the Marines didn't charge. They didn't even approach directly. Instead, they split up. Individual Marines moved through impossible terrain. They climbed cliffs, crawled through tunnels, moved during the night. When they struck, it wasn't a battle. It was a nightmare. The Confederation soldiers never saw them coming. Explosions ripped through ammunition dumps. Command vehicles exploded. Communications went dead. When the Confederation troops tried to retreat, they found their vehicles disabled. When they tried to fight, they couldn't find the enemy. 19 minutes, Daewon said. 207 casualties. The rest surrendered or fled. 0 Marine casualties. He opened a third file. Proxima ambush. This one is worse. The footage showed a jungle world. Thick vegetation, heavy rain, poor visibility. 3 Marines were on patrol when they encountered Kreshnar hunters. The Kreshnar were famous across the galaxy, apex predators who hunted other species for sport. 75 Kreshnar hunters surrounded 3 Marines, Daewon said. The Kreshnar thought it would be fun. They called it a fair hunt. The video lasted 8 minutes. Hana watched in silence. The Marines didn't run. They didn't hide. They turned the jungle into a weapon. Every tree, every shadow, every sound became a trap. The Kreshnar hunters became the hunted. When it ended, all 75 Kreshnar were dead. 1 Marine had a broken arm. The other 2 were uninjured. Daewon stopped the video. The Kreshnar government withdrew their embassy from Earth for 20 years after this incident. They were too ashamed to face us. Hana felt cold. She looked at Mireille, who was staring at the screen with wide eyes. I don't understand, Hana said slowly. These results don't make sense. The enemy has training, numbers, equipment. Why do humans always win? Because of how we think, Daewon said. He stood up and walked to the window. The galaxy has rules for warfare. Species fight according to their nature. The Vrillax fight for honor, so they duel. The Krithian fight for territory, so they defend positions. The Hive collectives fight with numbers, so they swarm. Everyone follows patterns. He turned back to face them. Humans don't have patterns. We adapt, we improvise. We do whatever it takes to survive, Mireille spoke carefully. You make it sound like we're different from other species. We are different. Daewon pulled up another file. This one showed human evolution. Earth history. Millions of years compressed into minutes. Humans evolved on a death world, he said. Earth doesn't seem dangerous to us because we grew up there. But compared to most inhabited planets, Earth is a nightmare. Extreme weather, Deadly predators, diseases, natural disasters, poisonous plants. Most species in the galaxy evolved on worlds with one or two major threats. Earth had thousands. The video showed early humans hunting, not with claws or fangs, but with patience and planning. We're persistence hunters, Daewon continued. Our ancestors hunted animals by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We can run for hours. We can track prey across continents. We never give up. That's coded into our DNA. He showed more footage. Humans making tools. Humans building weapons. Humans surviving ice ages, plagues, wars. Every human alive today is descended from survivors, Daewon said. Thousands of generations of people who refused to die, who looked at impossible situations and found a way through. That's what makes us dangerous, Hana thought about this. But the other species are trained soldiers too. They have combat experience. Yes, Daewon agreed, but they fight to win battles. We fight to survive. There's a difference. He pulled up training footage. Human Marines going through qualification courses. Hana watched as recruits were pushed to their absolute limits. Freezing water, burning heat, no food, no sleep, physical pain, mental stress. They were broken down completely. Marine training lasts 5 years, Daewon said. Most alien species can't complete the first month. Not because they're physically incapable, because they quit. Why don't humans quit? Mirai asked. Because quitting means death. That's how we're trained to think. Every exercise is survival. Every test is life or death. We learn to push past pain, past fear, past exhaustion. We learn that the only failure is stopping. He showed footage of alien recruits attempting human training. Every single one quit before the end. Some lasted days. Most lasted hours. One Vrillax warrior, trained from birth in combat, lasted 3 weeks. He broke down crying and begged to leave. It's not physical, Daewon explained. It's psychological. Humans have this thing inside us that refuses to accept defeat. Call it stubbornness. Call it insanity. But it's what kept our species alive on Earth. And it's what makes us effective in combat. Hana stared at the screen. She thought about her own training at the academy. It had been difficult but manageable. Now she wondered if they were holding back because she was human. Show me real combat, she said quietly. Not training. Real Marines in real battles. Daewon hesitated. Are you sure? This isn't easy to watch. Show me. He pulled up a file. Unedited combat footage from the Outer Rim. A Marine fire team defending a civilian colony from raiders. The Marines were outnumbered 20-1. The raiders had heavy weapons and military vehicles. What Hana saw made her stomach turn. The Marines fought with a level of violence she hadn't imagined. They weren't cruel or sadistic. They were efficient. Every movement had purpose. Every shot counted. They used the environment, used the enemy's weapons, used their own wounded as decoys. When a Marine went down with an injury, he didn't stop fighting. He set traps around his position. When enemies came to finish him, they died instead. The Marines won. The colony was saved. But the cost was visible. The Marines who survived were covered in blood, exhausted, barely able to stand. One Marine sat against a wall staring at nothing. He was 20 years old and looked 50. This is what combat does to us, Daewon said softly. We win, we always win. But it costs us, he closed the files. You wanted to know about combat ratios. The truth is, there is no ratio. Put a Marine in an impossible situation, and somehow they'll find a way out. Give them bad odds, and they'll overcome them. The worse the situation gets, the more dangerous we become. Mirai's voice was small. Why don't other species know this? Because the Council suppressed the information. Daewon sat back down. After the first few conflicts with humans, the Council realized something frightening. Humans could potentially defeat any species in the galaxy in combat, not through technology or numbers, but through sheer will and adaptability. So they hid the truth, Hana said. They classified it. They called human conflicts minor territorial disputes. They mediated peace quickly before word spread. The academy cafeteria was loud with conversation in a dozen languages. News of what happened in class had spread quickly. Students from every species whispered and argued. Some thought the human girl was brave. Most thought she was foolish. Hana sat with Mira, eating quietly. She could feel eyes watching her. Since asking her question 3 days ago, everything had changed. Students avoided her in hallways. Instructors gave her strange looks. Even the automated systems seemed to watch her more closely. You've made yourself famous, Mirai said, picking at her food. I just asked a question. A dangerous question. Mirai looked around nervously. People are talking. They're saying humans think they're superior, that we're arrogant. Before Hana could respond, a shadow fell across their table. She looked up to see Kronoth standing there. The Vrilax warrior was huge, almost 3 meters tall with thick armor plates covering his body. Behind him stood 4 other Vrilax students, all equally large. Human, Kronoth said. His voice was deep and rough. You spread lies about your species? You claim humans are great warriors. Hana set down her fork. I didn't claim anything. I asked about combat records. Those records are fake, propaganda. Humans are weak, small, your bones break easily. You have no natural weapons, no armor. You're prey animals pretending to be predators. Other students had stopped eating. Everyone was watching now. I'm not interested in arguing, Hana said calmly. Of course not, because you know I speak truth. Kronoth leaned closer. My species has fought wars for 10,000 years. We are bred for combat. We are stronger, faster, and tougher than humans. Yet you claim one human marine can defeat many of us? Impossible. Mirai started to stand, but Hana put a hand on her arm. Stay calm, she thought. The records speak for themselves, Hana said. Kronoth laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. Then prove it. If humans are such great warriors, demonstrate this ability. I challenge you to combat simulation. The cafeteria went completely silent. Combat simulations were common at the academy. Students used neural suppressor fields that simulated injury without causing real damage. When you got hit in simulation, your nervous system registered pain and your body shut down as if wounded. It felt real but left no permanent harm. I'm not a Marine, Hana said. I'm a student. Then bring a Marine. If even one human soldier can defeat multiple warriors, prove it. Let us test these claims. Hana knew this was a trap. If she refused, it would look like cowardice. If she accepted and lost, it would humiliate all humans at the academy. If she accepted and won, it might make things worse. Give me time to consider, she said. Coward, Kronoth spat. He turned and walked away, his friends following. The cafeteria erupted in noise. Students argued in every language. Some defended Hana. Most sided with Kronoth. Humans talked big but couldn't back it up, they said. Mirai grabbed Hana's arm. We need to tell someone. This could get out of control. It's already out of control, they found Daewon in his office an hour later. He listened to the story without expression. When they finished, he sat back in his chair. Kronoth wants to embarrass humans, Daewon said. He thinks he can prove we're weak. Can we refuse? Hana asked. We can, but the damage is done. Refusing makes us look scared. He drummed his fingers on the desk. How many warriors did he want to fight? He said himself and 4 others. 5 total. Against 1 human? That's what he implied. Daewon smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. Then we accept. What? Mirai said. Are you serious? Completely. We'll give them what they want. A demonstration. But we're students. We're not trained for— You're not, Daewon interrupted. But there's a Marine on station. Private Jun Lee. He's here on leave visiting the academy. I can ask him to participate. Hana remembered seeing Jun around the station. He was young, maybe 22 years old. He looked ordinary. Average height, slim build, quiet demeanor. He certainly didn't look like someone who could fight 5 Vrilax warriors. Is he good enough? Hana asked. Daewon's expression was unreadable. He's a Marine. That's all that matters. The challenge was formalized through proper channels. Academy rules allowed combat simulations for educational purposes. The scenario was set. Hostage extraction. 5 Vrilax warriors would defend a position. 1 human would attempt to extract a hostage from that position. Neural suppressors would simulate real injury. Word spread throughout the station. Everyone wanted to watch. The academy opened the simulation to live viewing. Hundreds of students packed into the observation gallery. Instructors stood in the back watching carefully. Even Velthar attended, his crystalline body flickering with interest. Hana sat with Mirai near the front. Her stomach churned with anxiety. This was her fault. She'd asked questions, caused trouble, and now a young Marine had to risk humiliation to defend human reputation. The simulation arena appeared on the central screen. It was a complex environment. Buildings, corridors, multiple levels. Perfect for defense, terrible for a solo attacker. The 5 Vrilax warriors entered first. They were massive, armored, and moved with confidence. They'd trained together for years. They took defensive positions, covering all approaches. One carried a heavy weapon. Two had rifles. Two had blade weapons for close combat. They were ready. Then June entered the arena. The crowd murmured. He looked so small compared to the Vrillax. He wore simple combat gear and carried a standard rifle. No special equipment. No heavy armor. He looked like a child about to fight adults. Cronath's voice came over the speaker. "This is your champion? This small creature?" June didn't respond. He checked his weapon, looked at the arena layout, and waited for the simulation to begin. "Begin simulation," the computer announced. What happened next would be talked about for years. June didn't charge forward. He didn't announce himself. He simply disappeared. One moment he was visible at the starting point. The next moment he was gone. The Vrillax warriors looked confused. They scanned their sectors, weapons ready. Nothing. Silence. Then the first warrior fell. He was on an upper level, supposedly providing overwatch. He convulsed as the neural suppressor registered a kill shot. Simulated death. The screen showed his view. June had somehow climbed the exterior wall, approached from an impossible angle, and eliminated him silently. 4 Vrillax remained. They tightened formation, backing into a defensive position. Smart tactics. They covered each other, watched all angles. June struck from below. He'd found access to the lower levels. Moving through maintenance tunnels the defenders forgot existed. He appeared for 3 seconds, eliminated another warrior, and vanished again before the others could react. 3 warriors left. They were panicking now. The simulation showed their view. They saw nothing, heard nothing. The enemy was a ghost. Cronath shouted orders. They moved to an interior room with only one entrance, defensible, safe. 2 warriors guarded the door. Cronath stayed with the hostage dummy. The lights went out. June had cut power to that section. In the darkness, he moved. The neural suppressors registered 2 more kills in quick succession. The defenders fired blindly, hitting nothing. Their muzzle flashes gave away their positions. When the lights came back on, only Cronath remained. He stood over the hostage dummy, weapon raised, breathing hard. His eyes searched every shadow. "Show yourself, human," he roared. June appeared right behind him. Cronath spun, but too slow. June disarmed him with brutal efficiency. 3 movements, perfect technique. The weapon flew away. June swept Cronath's legs, dropping the massive warrior. Before Cronath could recover, June had a simulated blade at his throat. "Kill registered," the computer announced. "Simulation complete. Hostage extracted. Human victory." The observation gallery was completely silent. Total time, 4 minutes, 13 seconds. June helped Cronath stand. The Vrillax warrior was shaking, whether from anger or shock, Hana couldn't tell. June's expression was neutral, professional. "Good fight," June said quietly. Cronath stared at him. That wasn't fighting. That was murder, ambush, cheating." June tilted his head slightly. "Combat isn't fair. It's not about honor or rules. It's about survival. You wanted to know what a Marine does. Now you know." He walked toward the exit. The crowd parted for him. Some students looked frightened. Others looked awed. All of them looked at June differently now. Hana felt Mirai grip her arm tightly. They watched the replay on screens throughout the gallery. Military instructors were analyzing every move June made. His positioning, his timing, his efficiency, every action had purpose. No wasted movement. No hesitation. Velthar approached them. His crystalline body pulsed with colors Hana had never seen before. "Now you understand?" he said quietly. "This is what I couldn't explain in class. Human combat doctrine doesn't follow patterns. That young Marine didn't fight 5 warriors. He hunted them, like your ancestors hunted prey on Earth." "But Cronath called it cheating," Mirai said, "because it was unfair. But war is unfair. Humans understand this. Most species fight with honor, with rules, with predictable tactics. Humans fight to win." Velthar looked at the screen showing June leaving the arena. That Marine is 22 years old, young by any species standards, yet he defeated 5 veteran warriors without taking damage. Imagine what a fully trained Special Operations Marine could do. Imagine a full squad. Hana remembered the files Daewon showed her. Those weren't exaggerations. The simulation changed everything. Students who once ignored Hana now watched her carefully. Some with respect, others with fear, a few with suspicion. The academy felt different, charged with tension that hadn't existed before. 3 days after the demonstration, Hana noticed she was being followed. Not obviously, but there were always cameras pointing at her. Security drones hovering nearby, staff members appearing wherever she went. Someone was watching. Mirai noticed it too. "They're tracking us," she whispered one morning in the library. "All the human students. I checked the security logs. Every one of us is flagged for monitoring. Since when? Since the simulation. Since everyone saw what June did?" Hana felt a chill. They'd wanted proof that human combat capabilities were real. Now they had proof and people were scared. That afternoon, Hana received a message on her datapad. Anonymous. Encrypted. It contained only an address on the station and a time. Midnight. She should have deleted it. Should have reported it. Instead, she showed it to Mirai. "It's obviously a trap," Mirai said. "Probably. So you're going?" "I need to know who sent it," Mirai sighed. "Then I'm coming with you." They went together at midnight. The address led to an abandoned storage section of the station. Old equipment, disabled lighting, no security cameras. Perfect place for something secret. A woman waited for them in the shadows. She was human, older, with sharp eyes and a military bearing. She wore civilian clothes but stood like a soldier. "My name is Jisoo An," she said. "I'm a diplomatic analyst for the Earth Embassy." "Why are we meeting like this?" Hana asked. "Because official channels are compromised. The Council is watching all human communications. They're nervous after the simulation." "Nervous about what? It was just a demonstration." Jisoo smiled without humor. "It was proof. Undeniable proof that everything they've been hiding for 50 years is true." "That's dangerous." She pulled out a data chip. "I need to show you something. Information that will make you question everything you've learned at this academy." They moved to a terminal in the corner. Jisoo inserted the chip and files appeared. Thousands of them. All marked classified, all from Council archives. "For 50 years, Jisoo said, the Galactic Council has been suppressing information about human military capabilities. Not because they hate us, because they fear what knowledge of our capabilities would do to galactic stability." She opened the first file. It was a report from the Council Military Assessment Division, dated 30 years ago. Strategic Analysis Report 7741. Jisoo read aloud. Subject: Human Military Doctrine. Conclusion: Human forces demonstrate unprecedented adaptability. No consistent combat pattern detected across engagements. Recommendation: avoid military confrontation with human forces by any means necessary. Hana leaned closer to the screen. They knew. They've known for decades. They've known since first contact. Jisoo opened another file. Xenopsychology Assessment 4429. Listen to this. Humans possess paradoxical psychology. They are simultaneously social and individualistic, peaceful and violent, rational and emotional. Standard behavioral modeling fails to predict human actions. This species does not fit existing frameworks. Mirai read over Hana's shoulder. They studied us like we were a problem to solve. To them, we are. Jisoo pulled up more files. The galaxy has been stable for thousands of years because warfare follows predictable patterns. Every species fights according to their nature. Aggressive species expand until they meet resistance. Defensive species hold territory. Everyone understands the rules. Then humans arrived, Hana said quietly. Then we arrived, and we broke every rule. Jisoo showed them battle reports. Dozens of conflicts between human forces and various alien militaries. In every case, humans won. In every case, the odds had been against them. The Council realized something terrifying, Jisoo continued. Human military effectiveness doesn't scale normally. It's not about numbers or technology. It's about mindset. And that mindset makes us almost impossible to defeat in combat. She opened a file marked with special security tags. Military Assessment 8847, this is the one that scared them most. The report was detailed, clinical, frightening. It analyzed human combat psychology, training methods, and tactical doctrine. The conclusion was stark. Combat ratio calculations invalid for human forces. Standard force projection models do not apply. Human victory probability increases as situation becomes more desperate. Recommendation: never engage human military forces. Seek diplomatic solutions to all disputes. Hana sat back. They're afraid of us. Not exactly afraid, concerned, worried about stability. Jisoo closed the files. Think about it from their perspective. For thousands of years, the galaxy has been predictable. Wars happen, but they're manageable. The Council mediates, sets rules, maintains order. Then humans show up and demonstrate that all those rules are meaningless if you're willing to break them. So they hid the truth, Mirai said. They classified it, made human conflicts seem minor, called our victories territorial disputes or arbitrated settlements. They never mentioned the actual combat results. Most species in the galaxy have no idea what human soldiers can really do. Until now, Hana said. Until now. That simulation was broadcast throughout the academy. Students recorded it. The footage has already spread to other stations. Soon the entire galaxy will know. Jisoo looked worried. That's why I needed to meet you. Things are going to change quickly. The Council has kept this secret for decades. Now the secret is out. What happens now? Mirai asked. Before Jisoo could answer, footsteps echoed in the corridor. They froze. Someone else was here. A man emerged from the shadows. He was tall, well-dressed, and carried himself with authority. He was Telrathian, a species known for diplomatic skill. His name was Taemin Huang. No, that wasn't quite right. The translator adjusted his name for human pronunciation, but he moved like someone important. Ms. An, he said, sharing classified information. Jisoo stood protectively between him and the students. Observer Taemin. I wasn't expecting council oversight tonight. I'm not here officially. He looked at Hana and Mirai. I'm here personally, because we have a problem that requires human assistance. What kind of problem? Hana asked. Taemin moved to the terminal and pulled up star charts. The Zethran Dominion. You've heard of them? They're mentioned in history classes, Mirai said. Aggressive expansionist empire outside council space. They were outside council space. 3 days ago, they invaded the outer sectors. The star chart showed multiple systems highlighted in red. They've already destroyed 2 council defense fleets. Over 10,000 casualties. And they're not stopping. Jisoo's expression darkened. How many ships do they have? Millions of soldiers. Thousands of capital ships. They fight with overwhelming numerical superiority. Standard council tactics are failing. And you want human help, Hana said. The council needs human help. But they can't officially request it. Doing so would mean admitting that humans are the galaxy's most effective military force. It would undermine council authority. So let them figure it out themselves, Mirai said sharply. Taemin looked at her sadly. 3 billion civilians live in the contested zones. If the Zethran aren't stopped, those people will die or be enslaved. The council is proud. Humans are proud. But people are dying. Jisoo crossed her arms. What are you proposing? I can't speak for the council officially. But personally, as someone who cares about those 3 billion lives, I'm asking if Earth would consider sending military advisors. Advisors? Hana said. You mean soldiers? I mean whatever help Earth is willing to provide. Quietly, unofficially. Before this turns into a galactic catastrophe. He pulled up images of the Zethran attacks. Cities burning, refugees fleeing, council soldiers dying in waves against endless enemy forces. It was brutal, ugly, desperate. The council has been suppressing information about human military capability for 50 years, Taemin said. They were wrong to do that. I've always thought so, but now the truth is coming out and we need help. Not for the council's pride, for the people who are suffering. Jisoo looked at the images. Her expression softened slightly. This isn't my decision. I'm just a diplomatic analyst. But you have contacts in Earth Command. You can pass messages through proper channels. Taemin looked desperate. Please, people are dying. Hana felt torn. Part of her wanted to say no. Let the council deal with their own problems. They'd hidden the truth for decades. Let them face the consequences. But those images of burning cities, dying civilians, they were real. People were suffering. I'll pass your message to Earth Command, Jisoo said finally. No promises. But I'll make sure the right people know what's happening. Taemin looked relieved. Thank you. That's all I ask. He left quickly, disappearing into the station's corridors. Hana looked at Jisoo. Will Earth help? I don't know. This is complicated. The Council has been treating Earth like a minor power for decades. Now they need us. That changes the political situation dramatically. But people are dying. Yes. Jisoo's voice was heavy. That's why I think Earth Command will help. Not for the Council. For the people. They left the storage area separately, being careful not to be seen together. Hana returned to her quarters, her mind racing. Everything was changing so fast. A week ago, she'd just been a student asking questions. The war feeds came into the academy constantly. Every student watched. The Zethran Dominion was advancing through the outer sectors like a flood. Their numbers were overwhelming. Millions of soldiers, thousands of ships, endless waves of attackers. Council defense forces fought bravely. They died bravely too. The mathematics of warfare were simple and brutal. The Zethran had 10 soldiers for every council soldier, 20 ships for every council ship. They didn't need tactics. They just needed to keep coming. 3 worlds fell in the first week, 2 more in the second week. Billions of civilians were under Zethran control now. The council sent more fleets. Those fleets died. In the academy cafeteria, students watched the news with grim faces. The war was going badly. Everyone knew it. Some species were already talking about withdrawing from contested systems. Let the Zethran have the outer sectors. Build defenses closer to core worlds. Where are the human advisors? Someone asked. They were supposed to arrive last week. 50 Marines, another student scoffed. Probably got lost on the way. Hana sat with Mireille, watching the feed silently. She knew something the others didn't. She'd received a message from Jisoo 2 days ago. The Marines had arrived. They were already deployed. But their operations were classified. No public information. That bothered the other students. What are 50 humans going to do? They asked. This war needs millions of soldiers. Hana didn't answer. She just watched and waited. On the 15th day of the war, something changed. The Zethran advance stopped. Not slowed, stopped completely. The war feeds showed confusion. Zethran command ships went silent. Their supply lines stopped moving. Their coordinated attacks fell apart into chaos. Technical problems, the news analyst said. Communication failures. They'll reorganize and continue the advance. But they didn't reorganize. The Zethran fleet in the Perseus sector, over 3,000 ships sat in space, unable to coordinate. Their ground forces on occupied worlds went dark. Reports came in of command centers being destroyed, supply depots exploding, communications networks collapsing. It's like they're falling apart from the inside, one analyst said. Hana looked at Mireille. They both knew. The Marines. The war feeds didn't show what was happening, but Hana could imagine it. Small teams, moving through enemy territory like ghosts, striking critical targets, disappearing before response forces arrived. 50 Marines spread across multiple systems, each one a tiny blade cutting into the Zethran war machine. In the academy, Instructor Velthar called an emergency lecture. Every student attended. He stood at the front, his crystalline body dim and serious. We are witnessing something unprecedented, he said. The Zethran Dominion, which has never been stopped, is stopping. Their command structure is collapsing. Their logistics are failing, and nobody knows why. A student raised a tentacle. What about the human advisors? The human forces are operating under classified protocols. I cannot discuss their activities. But Velthar's body flickered with colors that suggested he knew more than he was saying. News continued to come in. A Zethran command carrier, their mobile headquarters, had been destroyed. 14 high-ranking Zethran commanders were dead. The entire chain of command for the Perseus sector was gone. Investigations showed the carrier's critical systems had been sabotaged from the inside. But how? Security had been maximum. Nobody should have been able to penetrate that far. Nobody except humans who specialized in impossible missions. On day 23, the Zethran Dominion made an announcement that shocked everyone. They were requesting peace negotiations, immediate ceasefire, withdrawal from occupied territories. They would discuss terms with the Galactic Council. The academy cafeteria erupted in celebration. The war was over. The council had won. Students cheered and congratulated each other. But Hana noticed that some instructors weren't celebrating. Velthar stood apart, watching the celebrations with his head tilted. Daewon sat in the corner showing no emotion. Jisoo, who had come to watch the announcement, looked satisfied but not surprised. That evening, Hana found Daewon alone in his office. What happened out there? She asked. He looked at her for a long moment. The Marines did their job. 50 Marines stopped an invasion that was destroying Council fleets. 50 Marines changed the equation. They didn't fight the Zethran military. They disabled it, removed command structures, destroyed logistics, made it impossible for the Zethran to coordinate. Without coordination, millions of soldiers become millions of individuals, confused, unable to execute strategy. How many casualties did the Marines take? 3 wounded, 0 killed. Day One's voice was quiet. They'll all recover fully. Hana sat down. The galaxy thinks the Council won this war. Let them think that. It's easier than the truth. What is the truth? The truth is that 50 humans did what millions of Council soldiers couldn't do. Not because we're stronger or have better weapons, because we think differently. We don't fight wars the way the galaxy expects. We find the weak points and strike them. We adapt constantly. We use the enemy's size against them. Sergeant Borisong, Day One continued. She led the primary strike team. 8 Marines. They penetrated 3 layers of Zethran defense, destroyed the command carrier, and extracted without casualties. The Zethron never knew they were there until it was over. Hana remembered the files she'd seen, the combat footage, the impossible victories. It was all real. All of it. What happens now? She asked. Now the Council negotiates peace. The Zethran withdraw, and everyone pretends this was a normal military victory. Day One looked tired, but some people know the truth. More people every day. The secret is out. The next morning, Velthar called a special lecture. Only selected students were invited. Hana and Mirai received invitations. So did students who had asked questions about human combat capabilities. About 30 beings total, representing 15 different species. Velthar stood at the front. The holographic displays were dark. He didn't need visual aids for this lecture. I owe some of you an answer, he began. He looked directly at Hana. You asked about combat ratios for Earth Marines. You wanted numbers. I told you it was complicated. Now I will give you the complete answer. The room was completely silent. Human military effectiveness does not scale numerically, Velthar said. This is the fundamental truth that the Council has been suppressing. When you add more soldiers to most species' forces, you get proportionally more combat power. Add twice the soldiers, get twice the power. This is how warfare has worked for thousands of years, he paused. Humans don't work that way. Add more humans to a situation, and you get exponentially more effectiveness. But the inverse is also true. Reduce human numbers, and their effectiveness per individual increases. The worse the situation becomes, the more dangerous each human becomes. A student interrupted. That makes no sense. How can fewer soldiers be more effective? Because human combat psychology is built on survival, Velthar explained. When a human faces overwhelming odds, something activates in their mind. They don't give up. They don't surrender. They become more focused, more determined, more creative. Other species reach a point where they recognize defeat is inevitable, and they stop fighting. Humans don't have that point. He pulled up data. 50 Marines against the Zethron Dominion. Millions of enemy soldiers. By any standard calculation, the Marines should have been destroyed immediately, but they weren't. They operated in small teams, each team independently targeting critical systems. When the Zethron tried to counter them, the Marines adapted. When defenses increased, Marines changed tactics. When communication was blocked, they operated autonomously. In 3 weeks, 50 Marines caused more damage to the Zethron war machine than 1 million Council soldiers did in a month. Not because they're individually stronger, because they're individually unstoppable. Another student spoke up. But the combat ratios, what's the actual number? 1 Marine versus how many enemies? Velthar's body flickered. You're still thinking in traditional terms. There is no ratio. Not in the way you understand it. A Marine can defeat 5 enemies or 50 or 500 depending on circumstances. The number changes based on terrain, objectives, resources available, and desperation level. The Zethran learned this lesson. They had millions of soldiers. They lost the war because 50 humans made it impossible for those millions to function as an organized force. That's the answer to your question. 1 Marine doesn't defeat X number of enemies. 1 Marine defeats whatever opposes them by changing the nature of the conflict. Hana raised her hand. Are we really that different from other species? Yes, Velthar said simply. Every species has strengths. The Vrillax are strong. The Krithian are resilient. The Telrathians are intelligent. But humans have something unique, the refusal to accept defeat. It's coded into your evolutionary history. Your species survived on a death world by being too stubborn to die. That stubbornness translates into military effectiveness. He looked around the room. The Council suppressed this information because it's destabilizing. If every species in the galaxy knew that humans could defeat them in combat, the entire power structure would change. But after the Zethran War, suppression is no longer possible. Too many people have seen what humans can do. What does that mean for the future? Mirai asked. It means change.